Well, hey everybody, Mike Griffith here. Welcome to Friday Night Mike. Before the night, Friday Night Mike before the night, Friday Mike in the daylight. It's the afternoon, late afternoon. It's still night. I mean, when does night start? It's 7:03 p.m. I guess technically that's the night, right? So I thought, let me go a little bit earlier rather than late, because you go late, all the bugs come around, and I've been going to bed earlier. I don't know if it's the heat. I want to get up a little bit earlier to exercise, just because it's so doggone hot during the day now. It's good to see everybody already joining in. I know that we do this at various times. Some people are probably like, hey man, you don't even go till 9 or 9:30 some nights. I'm like, yeah, you know what? It's been a busy week. So, let's talk about a lot of different things. As far as decisions made in college football, I don't know if you saw the breaking news yesterday. It seemed like it kind of came in under the wire late, and some people didn't really make a big deal out of it, but I think it's a really big deal. The NCAA Oversight Committee has thrown a date out there now where we know the football staff is going to be working with these guys. Prior, they'd put out a 4-phase plan earlier in the week, and there was kind of a phase 2 and a phase 3, and you're kind of like, okay, well, when are they actually going to have the coaches out there? Because right now, it's the strength and conditioning staff that's working with the players. And as we know, that's different than having the football coaches out there. So, big deal there. I'm going to share this around. If you all will do me a favor before we start throwing, before the live bullets start flying here and we start getting into some heavy opinions, if you want to share this to a certain page, if you've got a friend that you think might want to watch the show, share it to their page. I'm going to share it to my page. Oh gosh, listen to that. My watch is going off. I didn't even say Siri or anything. So I'm going to share it to, I've got a page. I've got a Mike Griffith page where I'll post stories and things like that. And then I'm also going to share it to my personal Facebook page, just so we can get a cross-section of different people. I never know who's going to be watching on my Facebook page. You guys know I've had a lot of different places I've worked, whether it was my first job out in Idaho, and then it was Anniston, Alabama when I covered Auburn, and then Desmond says my watch is hacked. It might be. And then I went down to Mobile, Alabama for 4 years and covered Alabama Crimson Tide, a little bit of a drive there back and forth. And then it was Knoxville, right? Got a lot of friends in Knoxville that'll be watching, a lot of Tennessee fans. The ones that are still Facebook friends with me, they'll put up with it, right? They'll be like, look, we really would rather you talk about Tennessee, but we're your friends, so go ahead and talk Georgia. My Auburn people, that was so long ago. People don't even know I covered Auburn. And then Alabama, the only person that really resonated with was Phil Fulmer. I remember one time I went out to a Tennessee practice, and it used to be called the Del Champ Senior Bowl, okay, right? So remember I said I worked in Mobile, Alabama, and we would always cover the Senior Bowl like it was the Super Bowl because the event was down there, and they would always hand out this promotional stuff. And we had these wind shirts, golf wind shirts, and they gave us some in crimson and some in blue, and there was a pretty obvious connotation there, right? It was going to be an Alabama, but it said Del Champ Senior Bowl on it. So I'm going out to cover Tennessee practice, and this is back when the practices were wide open, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday practice at Alabama and Tennessee. For me as a beat writer, between 94 and 2005, it was open practice those 3 days of the week. And you'd go stand out there and you'd watch for 2.5 or 3 hours. You'd see everything. So it's a cold day, and I put on this, and Fulmer comes over and goes, get that Alabama, you know what out of there. I said, Coach, it's a Del Champ Senior Bowl. He goes, I know what it is. I don't want those colors in my practice. And he and the SID came over and said, my coach he's pretty upset. I said, what do you want me to do? He said, you're going to have to change. I had to leave the Tennessee practice and put on a different jacket because Fulmer didn't want the crimson wind shirt on the sideline at a practice, not a game. What does Ivan said? We're talking about practice, man. I mean, there's back then only 5 or 6 other there was maybe 6 or 7 of us, tops. Now you go to a Tennessee practice or a Georgia practice, and there's 30 people the first 10 minutes. I don't even know. Have we ever talked about that? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about what practice observations are now for the media. you go out there, you're led out there by sports information. They got a walkie-talkie. Somebody on the field's like, yep, go ahead, send the media in. And they'll walk you out from the building. 20 of us will stand in the track stadium and wait. We have to wait like a holding area, right? Until they go from period 2 to period 3. And period 2 is like they're running some, it looks like they're running some skeleton work, but we can't really see it all. And then by the time we're just watching them go through drills. We're watching them hit dummies. Sometimes we'll watch the quarterbacks throw deep routes, and you'll see what you can gather from that. You can gather maybe the depth chart, maybe the order that the players are going through the drill work. You can see who's the first through it, who's the second through it. You can see who like the first receiver team is. They work out with I want to say 11 personnel, right? When they run skeleton, 11 would be 1 tight end, 1 back, 3 receivers. And you can kind of tell the depth chart. You can see who's hurt. They'll have guys in a non-contact jersey. And that's the report that we do on Dog Nation when we're going to practice. Now, how is this going to work with COVID-19 restriction? We don't really know. Georgia has the best sports information director in the country. And it's not just me saying it. You could ask anybody in the country, and they would tell you that Claude Felton is the best at his job in the country. And you might go, well, who cares about that? Well, it is a big deal, because anytime anybody wants to do anything with Georgia coverage, whether it's interview Kirby Smart or interview a player, they got to go through Claude Felton. So he's kind of the front porch of the football program. He's the voice. He's the guy you meet that shakes your hand. Now, they've got a lot of other really talented guys over there. One of them lives in my neighborhood, Leland Barrow. He does football stuff. Mike Mobley does basketball. Chris. And they've just got and these guys could like have their own sports department other places, but they would rather stay at Georgia. So it's like this all-star staff. Imagine like an NBA team where people were willing to work for less because they wanted to win championships. That's kind of what this Georgia sports info is like. And they're the greatest people to deal with. But Kirby's tough. Kirby's got rules like very few other coaches. There's not a lot of access at Georgia. Kirby controls what players come out and talk to the media. You might say, I want to talk to player A, B, C, and D. Well, you can want to talk to whoever you want. Kirby's going to decide who goes out and talks on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. What 4 players. Now, you can take something from that, too. So I'm giving you some background and insight. Like most of the people say, Mike, fans don't care about this. And I get it. You probably don't. But to some extent, if you understand it, maybe it'll give you a better read on the media. Like you may wonder, wow, there sure was a lot of John Fitzpatrick interviews last year. That's because Kirby sent them out to us like 5 times. Or you might say, man, Monty Rice sure does talk. Well, that's because Kirby. And then you might notice, geez, we don't really get to see much of this guy. Well, Kirby doesn't send him out. Why is that, right? So then you get into the guessing game like, now why is Kirby sending this guy out? And I'll tell you, at the end of last season, it was kind of interesting that DeAndre Swift started coming more. And Swift kind of became the voice of the team. Jake had that tough game against Kentucky where the fans booed at halftime. And whether they were booing him or not, I don't know. But he felt really bad after the game because I think he only threw 12 passes and he was getting booed. And all of a sudden, Jake wasn't coming anymore. It was DeAndre Swift coming. And you went, aha, something's happened here. Shift in the locker room. And Swift stepped up. So probably more than you ever wanted to know. Everybody likes to evaluate what I'm drinking. So free advertisement for El Barrio. I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's some pretty rock and roll tacos that's near the football facility. And it's water. It's pretty boring, I know. I was going to do the show on my front porch. I've gotten kind of comfortable with that. But the sun, in Athens, that sun, I've lived in the South. But this sun here, I'm telling you, there's something different. This stuff will, I'm like, I can't sit in. If I sit in the sun, I'm only going to be good for 10 or 15 minutes. I'll melt. So I said, all right, I'm going to the back porch. There's no lighting. Tonight's lighting is provided by God. Thank you. So it's going to get darker. And I'm only going to go about another 30 minutes anyway. So getting into what happened this week, right? I started out top of the broadcast. Don't know how many of you were watching the start of the show, which is really early tonight, but July 13th. So that's the day where the coaches are going to be allowed to oversee the players. Now that's not in pads. That's not football practice, okay? It's still going to be very restricted and limited opportunities. So let me call up my story here. And here it is. You can go to Dog Nation. You can see a picture of Dwan Mathis with the follow through. Mathis in the game, right? Mathis in this quarterback derby now. That's a new twist. He got cleared in May, and JT Daniels, and you're like, okay, Mike, there's too many quarterbacks. Yeah, there is. Somebody's gonna leave. When's it gonna be? Look at Brian knows. Brian knows what I'm talking about with Claude Felton. The guy's an institution. He's in the College Football Hall of Fame. I don't know how many of you know that, but he actually is in the College Football Hall of Fame. So, here we go. There is this is where if I had my guy Michael Carvel producing, there would be a graphic that I would throw up on the screen. I don't know how it works if I try to, I might try to, I can just show you. I don't know how, you can't really read that, but this is like what they put out. If you go to the Dog Nation page, you can see the breakdown. The different color coding is the different time of the summer that they're going to be doing different activities. So right now we're in voluntary workouts. If you go to the Dog Nation page, this story's up there. So right now we're in voluntary and virtual activities. This is phase 1 of phase 2, 3, 4 that was put out by the NCAA Oversight Committee earlier this week. Pete Thamel, Sports Illustrated, Brandon Marcello, all those guys, national media guys, they've got their respective leaks that gave them. So right now, what's going on? Right now, the coaches have 8 hours a week of virtual interaction. So they can do Zoom meetings with them, but they cannot oversee the workouts. They cannot get the results of the workouts. Let me just say this. I would say it in any interview. I would say it on the Feinbaum show, so I'm going to say it on my own show. I don't believe for a minute that these coaches don't have access to this. They're not supposed to, but what? Does the NCAA got like a guy in every building? Do they got like a NCAA camera watching? No, they don't. So I think it's ridiculous to think that the coaching staff doesn't have any idea who's in shape and who's not. They don't have any idea who looks good. I don't believe it. I'm sorry. I just don't believe it. I was at one school that will remain nameless, and they would have their summer workouts, and their offices were located conveniently at a place where they could look out their office window and watch. Technically, they were not supervised. They might have, for all we know, they may have just been looking out at the clouds or seeing what the traffic was like. It just so happened that there were players outside of their office windows because their office windows might have been on the second floor. I was at another school that will remain nameless, and for the heck of it, just for the heck of it, I was driving by the football building. It was like 9:30 at night, and there were a lot of cars. I said, boy, that's really weird. This was like July. I opened the door and practice. Listen, I've been in a lot of places. You got to remember, I covered Idaho State. That's right, Idaho State. How about that? You know who went to Idaho State? Can anybody tell me who went to Idaho State? Give me an NFL player that went on to a television career that went to Idaho State. We'll see who gets it first. So Idaho State was my first college beat. Then I covered Auburn. Then I covered Alabama. Then I covered Tennessee. Then I covered Michigan State. And now I cover Georgia. So I've been a lot of places. This could happen anywhere. It happened. So anyway, right now we're in voluntary workouts. This period that we're in right now, according to the proposed plan, will run through July 12th. Voluntary workouts. Then comes the summer access period. Now, this is a countable activity. Those are operative words. Countable activity. July 13th through the 23rd. So what that tells you is that's when the rest of everybody, like right now, different people are coming back for voluntary workouts at different times, right? Depending on the different states, bylaws, and COVID-19 restrictions and guidelines and all that kind of stuff. July 13th is when everybody's clock kind of starts. Everybody's on the clock. Everybody has equal practice time. And the NCAA tries to keep it that way. So that's when the coaches can oversee July. And what's going to happen on July 13th? This period from July 13th to July 23rd, required summer athletic activities Student athlete may engage in 8 hours of weight training, conditioning, and film review. That's all. No football. Do you believe that? Do you believe that? I'm just telling you what the rules say. Do you believe that there's not going to be football in front of the coaches? I'm just asking. I think the players can do whatever they want when they're not on the campus or when they're not in the organized part. So if Dwan Mathis and Jamie Newman and Muschamp's kid, who are in one workout group, say, hey, let's go out and throw 6 o'clock at Athens Clark County High School or at such and such a park with a football, they can do whatever they want. The other workout group, JT Daniels, Carson Beck, and Stetson Bennett, maybe they want to go somewhere else and throw with a different group of receivers. Remember, it's divided up right now. So anyway, that's what happens the 13th through the 23rd, which is also why we don't know the dates of the SEC Media Days. Because originally the Media Days were going to be the 13th through the 17th at the College Football Hall of Fame in Atlanta. Well, you probably saw that got canceled. It's going to be virtual. What it's going to be is going to be on the SEC Network. The good news is the SEC Network does an unbelievable job. Whether it's Greg McElroy, whether it's Tim Tebow, Maria Roberts, Paul Feinbaum, they'll do a knockout job. No doubt about it. Reese Davis will probably. I'm not the scheduler here. I shouldn't tell you who I think will be there, but I think the SEC Network does an unbelievable job. I also enjoyed the Big Ten Network when I was up there. I thought Jerry DiNardo I would call him a friend. I've done enough with Jerry, interviews and talking to him. I really like, he's the guy I can pick up the phone, just talk to about whatever. Played at Notre Dame. He was on the national title team, coached at LSU. He was at LSU when he beat Nick Saban in the Independence Bowl. I covered in whatever, 94. Okay, so now, July 24th through August 6th is phase 3. Now we're getting warmer here, okay? And what's going to happen then? Up to 8 hours per week of weight training still, conditioning and film review, up to 1 hour per day of walkthrough, which may include the use of a football. So according to the NCAA, come July 24th is going to be the first time that coaches are going to be able to watch their players work with a football. That's what the rules say. I'm just telling you what the rules say. Up to 1 So it's going to be 20 hours a week. It's going to kind of start getting serious right around July 24 through August 6th. And then we get into August 7th, and that's kind of when practices start. There will be a 5-day acclimation period, and what that means is Philip Jordan Wells. See, Philip, you always have those comments, Philip. I can always count on you. He's the guy in the back of the room. When I turn my back, Philip Jordan Wells is going to say something that makes everybody laugh. Actually, I can just look on the screen and see it. Boom! Rick Wallace, Merrill Hodge. Great job, Rick. That was the answer of the NFL player on TV that went to Idaho State, the Bengals. So, August 7th through August 11th, those 5 practices, non-contact, right? The pads go on August 12th, August 13th, somewhere around there. They back it up from the start of the season. Of course, Georgia starts the season on September 7th against Virginia in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. That's going to happen. Now, I'm aware that there are some COVID spikes. I think we're all watching that. We're going to talk football. Nobody wants a downer show here. But that is a part of what is going to happen. Phil, thanks. That is a part of what is going to happen with the decisions when people say, because now on to the next story, right? Because that's what Friday Night Mike is for, sort of. I try to be more entertaining on Friday night. I probably shouldn't try. So I'll just be myself and hope that's entertaining. But I do try to inform. I do try to inform also. And there was a lot of news this week, so let me catch up with that. Look at AP Stedham. There's an Alabama beat writer. He's spying right now. AP, good to see you, man. AP does a great job covering the Crimson Tide. I've covered a lot of national championships games. Obviously, I haven't been Alabama's beat writer since the 90s, but I do cover the national title game. And when I go to the national title game, I need to know what's going on, so I got to huddle. And AP is kind of one of my go-to guys, especially now that Tommy Dees is the sports editor of the Nashville Tennessean. So, AP's kind of my go-to guy for Alabama news. And I'll be like, hey, AP, who's good to talk to? What's the storyline? That kind of stuff. Good to see Bryson Hardy here. There's one of my Tennessee friends. His big sister was a rock and roll softball travel player. He had a great sense of humor then, still does. Great to see all my friends join me tonight. on the show. So here was what came out of Georgia. It was a 225-page report from President Moorhead to the Georgia administration, faculty, staff. I'm guessing students got it. Remember back when President Moorhead did the radio show, was it April or was it May, on WGAU? It's one of the local stations here in Athens. And he said that he was going to put together these 9 different groups that were going to study the resocialization at Georgia. Like, okay, how are we going to get back on campus? And they had it broken. Well, athletics was one of the groups, and obviously Greg McGarity oversaw it. So in this 225-page report, there's about 21 pages that are just on athletics. And within these pages are the proposed stadium plans. There's different plans depending on the COVID-19 guidelines. And the 3 different plans they outlined was nobody at the stadium except for essential personnel. That'd be playing limited seating, which has got everybody's, antennas up, and then full capacity. It's like, okay, full capacity, we're good with whatever. Okay, so some things that will be in place regardless. They used to have misting tents. They used to have water refill stations. That's out no matter what, okay? They're going to do cashless operations. That means when you go to the concession stands, there won't be cash used. They're going to have the concession workers, they're going to be wearing the mask and the glove no matter what. They're going to have the spacing, the stickers on the floor, so that you can still social distance. There's going to be some differences like that. Tailgating, now, I didn't write about the tailgating in my story because that's kind of a likely maybe. And when I called Greg McGarity, this report came out. I mean, actually, it came out the next morning. Mark Weiser with the Athens Banner Herald did a great job. He got the story out first. And like any reporter, when somebody else gets the story, you're just like, son of a, So I'm like messaging Greg McGarity in the morning. I did not have this story, even though I requested this a long time ago, blah, 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 blah. And McGarity's like, look, I didn't even know this thing went out. So here's what it is, and anybody can get it. And I'm like, okay, fine. So not going to be mad, because we all request the same thing. We all want the same. We're competitive guys. We all go after the same story. And usually Georgia will put a release out, especially the athletic department, because that's Claude Felton. He's a Hall of Fame guy. Hey, look, everybody gets it at the same time. Nobody plays favorites here, right? But Mark is just, he's a good reporter. Look, there's a lot of, if you follow Georgia sports, you're spoiled, because there is a lot of very good media covering Georgia. Look, Chip Towers is a guy, a teammate, AJC.com. I've known Chip since 1994. Still does a great job. You got the Rivals team with Dasher and Roos and Roddy, and you got the 24/7 Jake Rowe. You just think about all the different people and the job they do, and it's good media. It's good. Palmer Thoms did some stuff for him. Dog Nation. Connor Riley knocked stuff out. Centel. Just a lot of good people, but it's competitive. So anyway, that's what the 25-page report says. If they do the limited seating, there's different ticket options of 2, 4, 5, and 6 right now. But again, McGarity told me, look, this is fluid, very fluid. There will be 6 feet social distancing in place. Kind of like what you thought. I mean, it's nothing that's going to blow your mind. I mean, it's going to make you go, oh my gosh, they're going to be wearing hazmat suits? No, it's going to be that, or that. And you can, and Frank DiCarlo, here's a good question. Why should there be limits set? Well, that's up to every state. That's up to every governor. Or it could be up to your, local or city ordinance. I think in Georgia, the COVID-19 rules and spacing has probably been, I use the word liberal, more liberal than other states. Well, than Michigan, for example. Michigan was, they stayed sheltered in place longer. They had more provisions. Every governor in every state, they have to do what they think is best. And then it's kind of up to the, the football program and athletic department. You got to abide by the rules. Now, we had a cover for the other night, Thursday night, last night, with Jeff and Connor and BA and myself. And, BA kind of said in so many words, and I boiled it down. And, do I think that Alabama is going to have a full stadium for Georgia? If I had to guess, I would guess they would. I'm just guessing, though. I mean, that's the thing. This is all guesswork. So when people say, what's going to happen, you got to go, well, we don't know. It's going to be decided by COVID-19 and, where is the pandemic at and what are the local guidelines. So there were just some options that were thrown out there. So I've seen some people asking questions. Let's do that right now. Chadwick Ivory. JT Daniels on campus. Yes, he is on campus. Oh, you guys, are they asking about what I'm drinking again? Yeah, it's the water. I went for a walk a couple hours ago because that's what I do. I try to stay in shape. You got to stay in shape. If you're, covering a beat, because you travel a lot and you work some weird hours and stuff like that. So nowadays, AP Stedham, look, a reporter asking a reporter a question. I was shocked. I didn't even know it was on the map. He hadn't even mentioned Georgia as a possibility. JT Daniels was a guy, I think we've done a Friday Night Mike since he came, but a lot of people thought he was leaning towards Tennessee or Michigan because both of those schools have much bigger quarterback needs. But JT Daniels wanted to go to a championship program, and he thinks he's going to be physically ready this fall. We're all waiting to see if he will get the waiver. Now, I wrote a story today where I looked into my crystal ball and I looked into the Magic 8 Ball for some questions. But the crystal ball on JT Daniels was that, yes, he will be eligible. And the reason why is because the guy only played a half a game last year. He suffered the torn ACL in the opener against Fresno in the second quarter. So it wasn't like he played a full season and he's just going to transfer and be eligible again. That happened with Justin Fields. He played in 12 out of 14 games and got the waiver. So I think that makes it likely. And then I think you could play the COVID-19 card, like the sense of, California more restrictive than Georgia, maybe more limitations. I know Los Angeles has got some pretty strict guidelines. At one point, their city mayor said no live events in LA the rest of the year, something like that. There's enough there that I think the Daniels family feels like they can get the waiver. I don't think he would have come to Georgia if he didn't think that he was going to be eligible. So I think he's in the mix right out of the gate. I think that's why he's working out with Carson Beck and working out with Stetson Bennett. They're going to find out. And how many guys get on the bus? That's a big question. Like, when I say that, the first game is at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I don't know the travel chart off the top of my head, but for like SEC road games, I want to say it's like 70. AP, you're in the room. You can check me on that. And it's always who gets on the bus and what players are on the travel squad. If you're bringing 70 or 72, and again, I don't know what it is for that particular game against Virginia, but I want to say for the SEC it's 70, 72. Not everybody travels. In fact, that was one of the difficult things for Dwan Mathis last year when he was going through that rehab was, what does Dwan Mathis do on, he couldn't play because of the brain surgery. And that's what made it hard. The guys that don't travel, it's tough. It's tough not to be at the stadium with your brothers and on the bus, right? Watching it on TV, that's not fun. So anyway, that's going to be a big question. What quarterbacks travel? You can bet that when that travel, I think somebody will transfer out of the quarterback room before then. I really do. I don't know who it's going to be. I really don't. I don't know if it's one. I don't know if it's two. You figure it out. You got Jamie Newman and JT Daniels that I think would be the front runners for the job, assuming JT gets cleared. I'm not counting out Dwan Mathis and Carson Beck, but these are younger guys. So we'll move on to that. Gary Strickland with a good question. Have I seen the running backs up close? I have, This time last year, I guess it was May, I was down in South Florida with Kenny McIntosh and who he was then. And I've seen Zamir. I've done a couple interviews with Zamir in the post game. He played last year some, so we interviewed him after the Sugar Bowl. We interviewed him after the SEC championship game. Look, Zamir White is an absolute specimen. You probably saw the picture when he's with Del McGee, who, by the way, Del McGee was a member of the Auburn team I covered in 1993. Speaking of feeling old. And now Del McGee's a running back coach at Georgia. How's that for small world? But they're all big. Let me tell you, don't underestimate James Cook's size. Now, Zamir was wearing like this tight gray workout shirt. Cook was wearing like a white hoodie, but I could see, and Kenny too, you could just see the shoulders go up, right? The no neck effect. They all look good. And of course, Kendall Milton came in like Centel says, he looks like Superman. So there's questions with each one of these guys, though. So I'll share this with you. I'm going to go down the checklist of questions with each guy, okay? And I wrote about one of them today on my crystal ball story on Zamir White. Has trouble catching the football. Looks great. You wonder about the wiggle. We really didn't see Zamir start to make those cuts until the Sugar Bowl when he got into a rhythm. What did he have? 18 carries for 91 yards, something like that. So Zamir had a really good performance in that game. Liked him a lot. But can he catch the football? And if the answer is no, then he's not in there on third downs probably, right? So then you've got, so that's the question on Zamir. James Cook, what does he do between the tackles? In the SEC championship game, actually no, the Sugar Bowl, there was no, Swift wasn't even going to play, but he got excited and ran in the game, but he pretty much didn't play for the most part. Cook got dinged up early. Wasn't that the game, or was the SEC championship game? I'm having, but it was almost like Cook wasn't going between the tackles. So now I got a question, Cook's not going to go between the tackles. So I think Cook's going to have a role. Cook is going to be a factor because Kirby wants explosive plays, and James Cook is an explosive player. He's dynamic in the open field. I don't know if it was Coley didn't call plays for him, or he was just too far down in the pecking order, or Jake just didn't look for him. But I thought Cook didn't get used enough last year. And I don't, maybe he didn't practice well. There's a lot of different things that could have happened that prevented James Cook. But listen, the last thing you want to do is blame the coaches. The coaches know the team better than any of us. So it's not like, boy, if Kirby was a little bit smarter. Look, if James Coley just was, no, these guys are pretty smart. And as Kirby told us, defenses take players away. They're not stupid. They know how good James Cook is. So they probably got him identified. And that's probably why you see a throw to the tight end. Charlie Werner or Eli Wolf, they're not going to kill you in the open field like James Cook is, right? So there's a lot of reasons. But this year, I believe there's going to be more designed for Cook and maybe even more, I don't want to use the word force to him, but what I foresee with this offense is kind of more of a spread, more RPO action with a quarterback that can actually run and up-tempo, more up-tempo. Last year, I thought Georgia was selective when they ran it, but this year, more up-tempo. Anyway, back to the running back checklist. So Zamir White catching the football, question mark. James Cook between the tackles, question mark. Kenny Mack playbook, question mark. Kenny was a true freshman last year, and he didn't get a lot of reps. He played special teams. He earned it. He really earned it. And so what is Kenny going to be like once the whole playbook gets thrown at him? And we haven't seen that yet. So we got to see if Kenny's going to be, he's got to know all his protections, his pass. Because to be in there on first and second down, we saw Kenny late. I thought Kenny looked great when he played, but we never really saw him in the crunch. So he's got to be assignment sound. So, again, Zamir with the hands. Battery low on the phone. If we get too low, I'll have to move closer and plug my computer in. In fact, I'll do that right now. A little preventive maintenance here. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So let me plug in the phone here. Sorry, folks. There we go. All right. What do we got? We're back. All right. So, anyway, what were we talking about? Kenny Mack. So, next back down, Kendall Milton, right? So, what's Kirby's MO? Can anybody answer the question, what does Kirby do with freshman running backs? What do they have to do to get on the bus? Can anybody answer that question? So, Kendall's got to do that, but then Kendall's got to prove he's got top speed, right? What's his speed like? And he comes from Fresno, which is a decent area of high school football. Block is a good answer, but that's pass protection is one thing, but that's not it. What if all freshmen, boom, Frank DiCarlo nailed it, special teams play. He's got to embrace special teams. So we got to see how Kendall Milton embraces special teams. We've got to see what his top-end speed is like. And then we've got to see, I'm just going to say, you got to take a hit. He's got to take a hit. And SEC ball is different, man. These guys are going to get lit up. They're going to get lit up. And the first time you get lit up in practice in the Georgia football, and look at the defense over there, okay? Monty Rice, hello. Malik Herring, hello. Walker, hello. Jordan Davis, you are going to get your bell rung like it has never been rung before. And I have seen running backs in my 20-some years of covering college football that look like Tarzan, play like Jane. And, now I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm pretty sure Georgia did their due diligence, but you're going to have that moment, and you just never know how they're going to react to it. So, there's a checklist for Kendall. He looks great. I don't have any reason to believe. And then the question with him is catching the ball. So there's a lot of things when you're an incoming freshman, a lot of levels, a lot of things you have to prove, and the coaches are going to evaluate. And you got to play special teams. And that was something something Sony Michel did. It was something that Zamir White was practicing when he had the knee. It was something, we saw Swift do some return work. Harrion did it through his senior year. Kirby believes in playing. And you know why? Because when you get to the NFL draft, and not everybody's going to be a first or a second rounder. Not everybody's Nick Chubb or Sony Michel or DeAndre Swift. There's some Brian Harrions or there's some Elijah Holyfields. But the NFL teams really look to see if you played special teams. For example, this year, Lawrence Cager is a great example of this. I was talking to the Senior Bowl rep, Jim Nagy, who was a former NFL scout with the New England Patriots. Good to see Jacob Neal in here. With the New England Patriots, the Seattle Seahawks, the Green Bay Packers. A who's who for 20 years. And now Nagy is like the Senior Bowl executive director. So he's kind of one of my go-to guys for football knowledge and information. And when I was asking him about Cager, I said, what does Cager got to do? I mean, because, aren't we all wondering why Lawrence Cager didn't get picked, in the first 3 or 4 rounds? I mean, I thought he was pretty doggone good last year. Never played special teams. Is that hard to believe? I do think they worry about his top-end speed. I think the injuries were a factor as well. Lawrence got beat up a little bit last year. He had the ribs, he had the shoulder, then the ankle. If you're an NFL team, you go, is this guy brittle? That's a part of it. You don't want to use a draft pick on a guy that's injured. I don't know what happened during his physical. I know this. I'll tell you this. For example, here's a great story that's pretty interesting. So Connor Riley and I went and covered the NFL Combine, which is a fantastic event to cover because they bring all the players out and you get to do interviews with them. And I hope that you all got to see all those interviews with all of the Georgia players at the Combine. What were there? Were there 10 there, I think? We sat down with we sat down with a few, and then some were behind a podium. Like Isaiah Wilson and Andrew Thomas and Fromm and Swift. They're in front of a podium. So imagine a podium, a stage, and then there's all the tripods. So maybe 4 or 5 camera tripods, and then below them, maybe 8 or 9 of us media people looking up, some of us videoing like this. I bring a tripod so I can stick a Dog Nation microphone, and we're asking the question. You get 15 minutes. So you get a lot of access to as players, and they're no longer playing at Georgia. So you can say, hey, what happened about week 2? What'd you think about this player? And then there's other guys that aren't as prominent that they put at these round tables. So Lawrence Cager, Brian Harrion were at the round tables. Great event to cover. And they give you all the data on the times and but we're watching the actual Combine events on TV just like you. We're not in the Lucas Oil Stadium, but we're there where the stage is set up and we're there where the bench press is and all that. So it's a great event to cover. And Lawrence Cager did a great interview. That was where I talked to those Wake Forest guys about Jamie Newman. It was also where I talked to the Clemson dude. What was his name? Tanner Muse, is that right? Is that the name of the Clemson safety? Anyway, I asked him about Jamie Newman, and Tanner Muse said he's going to do a lot of things that Justin Fields would have done if he stayed at Georgia. And I went, oh my goodness, how's that for a quote? Wait till the Georgia fans read about this one. Holy cow, did you really just put Jamie Newman and Justin Fields in the same sentence? Because it's mind blown. There's going to be some people right now that are going to be like, that's it. I'm turning it off. I'm not listening to another word. I'm out of here. You said Justin Fields. I'm done. There's still some Georgia fans that are still upset about it. I just say get over it. Get over it, okay? Look, Justin had an opportunity to go play at Ohio State. He did great, okay? Good for Justin. He gave you a year at Georgia. He competed with Jake. He didn't win the job, and he wanted to go somewhere where he didn't have to, Okay, so there's Tanner Muse. Thank you for getting me back on track there. A really good interview, and they really like Jamie Newman. Now, people go, well, against Clemson, he was awful. Okay, well, listen, folks. He's playing for Wake Forest, and he's missing his 2 best receivers the last 5 games of the season. Okay? And you go, well, it's just 2 guys. Okay, really? Because Jake Fromm with Lawrence Cager, 76% completion. Jake Fromm without Lawrence Cager, 53% completion. Now look at Jan. Jan is challenging me. Jan, I'm going to blow your mind with a statistic. Are you ready for this? And I did a story on this. Jamie Newman averaged more yards of total offense per game than Justin Fields did at Ohio State last year. How about that? Boom! Wake Forest and Jamie Newman averaged more yards per game than Justin Fields did at Ohio State. Is that not a great stat? But the last 5 games, if you go look at the game by game by game by game, the last 5 games, Newman didn't have his top 2 receivers, and they were awful. And they were good receivers. They were good receivers. One of them's actually projected as a first-round draft pick. Sage, I can't remember his last name right now. Rosenfield? No, I don't know. Sage something or another. But they were missing their 2 best receivers. So when you look at Jamie Newman's stats, you got to understand that the last 5 games were not indicative. And the other thing you'll notice, the last 5 games, and you can check me on this, I don't believe he threw more than 30 passes in a game the last 5 games because they changed the game plan. Dave Clawson in the claw offense, he's not stupid. Sage Surratt, great call. Thanks, Desmond. See, look, we don't have our 2 best receivers. We're not going to throw it as much. Not hard to figure out, right? Like Georgia 2017. This is amazing. I'm going to put this out there because I'm really working hard to help with the narrative. I don't control the narrative. I want to be clear on that. Kirby Smart sets the narrative. But I want to explain because people go, what, Kirby just going to have to open it up. Listen. Kirby understands football better than anybody. Better than anybody here, okay? Better than me, better than you, better than 99999999999 out of 11000, whatever. In 2017, do you realize that Georgia had the highest ratio of run to pass of any college football team in the nation other than option teams, other than triple option teams, like what Georgia Tech used to be, like Navy, like Air Force. Conventional pro-style teams, Georgia had the highest run-to-pass ratio. Can anybody tell me why Georgia had the highest run-to-pass ratio? Can you tell me? I'm guessing somebody can type those names in right now. Tell me why, if you're Kirby Smart, you ran the ball more than any other pro-style offense in the country in 2017. It wasn't because you didn't know how to coach. It wasn't because you weren't scoring points, right? Look how many points they put up against Oklahoma in the Rose Bowl, right? It wasn't like you couldn't throw the ball, but why did Georgia choose to run the Frank DiCarlo? Thank you. When you have Nick Chubb and you have Sony Michel, you give them the football. This is not hard to figure out. When you don't have great running backs, you throw it more. When you have DeAndre Swift, and he's the best player on your football team, you run the football, especially after Lawrence Cager goes out and George Pickens is learning the offense. So there may be people that ask me this, and I'm surprised I haven't seen it tonight. People will say to me, when are they going to get an offensive coordinator that uses the tight end? I say, when you got a tight end that can do something dynamic with the ball, okay? I mean, if you got Rob Gronkowski, hey, look, all we got to do is turn the Notre Dame game on, right? Hello, Kirby, the big tight end there, Cole Kmet. Now, they did, and I teased Kirby, they weren't ready for Cole Kmet. And the reason why was Cole Kmet didn't play in those opening games. That was like a Brian Kelly trick up his sleeve. Like George is going, holy cow, where the heck is this guy coming from? They did not have a plan for Cole Kmet. Remember the big Notre Dame tight end in the first half? You'd go, oh my God, they just threw it to the tight end. And again now, who's going to cover? Halftime, they adjusted. Because we asked Kirby about it in the post game. If you ask Kirby questions, right, like he'll be a little surly, but he's game for it. Like, go ahead and ask him why that play failed. He'll tell you. He'll tell you the truth, man. And he knows it's coming. Coach, the tight end in the first half, well, you'll notice in the second half, he didn't do much. Yeah, Okay, that's the quote I'm looking for. Yeah, you did adjust. And he didn't do much. Is it too early to say? I know Trey McKitty's on campus. I saw that he put a picture up of his jersey, 87. Darnell Washington could be dynamic. Darnell is 6'7", 260. Mark Richt told me on more than one occasion that he likes Trey McKitty. Remember, Mark Richt worked for the ACC network. So Mark Richt had some very strong things to say about Jamie Newman. He had some very strong things to say about Trey McKitty. He said he's the conventional tight end. Didn't say he was going to blow anybody's doors off. Didn't say he was a bum, but he'll be a good tight end. So I'm thinking, will he be as good as Isaac? Because Isaac was a pretty good tight end. If you get drafted in the NFL at tight end, you're pretty good. I think Isaac Naught is a pro. I think if Isaac came back for a senior year, he would have really helped himself. But Darnell Washington could be dynamic. I don't know that I believe Trey McKitty could be dynamic, but I do believe Darnell Washington could be. He could be a game changer. And if that's the case, then you throw more passes to him, okay? And if it's not, then you don't. And you use tight ends to block in space. I mean, that's very important. It sounds like coach speak, but you've got to have someone big and strong and athletic enough to take that linebacker and block him in space. That is one of the hardest things to do in football, is block in space. Do everybody understand what I'm talking about with blocking in space? Like I was a fullback for a while in high school. I'm a high school. Nobody cares about that. But a lot of times on our plays outside, I'd be the lead block on a toss to the tailback, and in the open field, and that guy's got space to move, and I've got space to move, and he's trying to move around, so I can't. That's a difficult open field block. It's very difficult. Tight end screens, a great example, Desmond. Another place where open field blocking is important. Downfield blocks. Remember the wide receivers on the corners or the safeties. Very important. William, you got that comment about LeCount. I'm not going to ignore it because I thought Richie did a better job with that last year. I thought he bulked up. Another question coming at me here from Chadwick. Andrew Anderson, get on the field. Last year he was a pass rush specialist. The answer is to learn more about the defense. You got to be reliable. And, there's other guys. Part of the magic of Georgia's defense, they had 37 guys play 100 snaps. That's why 5-stars keep coming. A lot of times people go, well, why would a 5-star go if he's not going to get on the field? Because they find a way to get you snaps. Even if the guy in front, we're going to use, like N'Kobe Dean was a third down linebacker, pass coverage. Adam Anderson, third down pass specialist. Nolan Smith would come down. We'd see him in 4-down sets, but more of a conventional D-end role. Jermaine Johnson, some specialty plays. Getting back to what I was saying, though, so those tight ends are valuable because they can be difficult matchups, and the defense not really sure what we're doing with this guy. Am I covering him? Am I blitzing past him? Because if I blitz past him and I don't cover him, he can leak out in the flats. So I've got to account for him. So am I accounting for him if I'm a linebacker? Or is he accounting for me? Is he coming up and blowing my doors off? So the tight end is, if you think about football like chess and all the different pieces, everybody kind of plays a role. The tight end to me is kind of like the knight. Like they're not the most dynamic piece on the board, but those knights are sneaky good. The bishop, he can fly. He's a wide receiver. The bishop can fly across the board and get you from one end of the chessboard to the other. The rooks can you're like the running backs. The rooks can patrol the alleys, dominant, right? What's the quarterback? He's got to be the queen piece, right? He can do it all a little bit. And the pawns of the line, you got to use your pawns strategically to build a defense, right? I don't know. Has anybody ever done that analogy? Is it working for you? Monty Dutton joins me. This is why I have people from my personal Facebook page. Monty Dutton was the preeminent NASCAR rider when I covered NASCAR in the 1990s largely and earlier this millennium. And it's unfortunate that we can't hear Monty's voice because he does the best Eli Gold impression on the planet. And I can't even attempt to do an impression of Monty doing an impression of Eli Gold. You're going to have to take my word for it. Or better yet, send Monty a friend request. Monty, I don't know if you've got it paid, but Monty also performs with a guitar. So a lot of fun entertainment tonight. We've talked about a lot of Georgia football. What other questions do you have for me? Does Tyreek Stevenson get on the field as a star or safety? This is where if I had the magic 8-ball, it would tell me. And I want to just tell you this. In my story today, in my magic 8-ball crystal ball story, I actually used actual Magic 8-ball responses. So your Tyreek Stevenson question would have been Magic 8-balled, ask again later, or answer hazy, ask again later, or it is I don't know if it is uncertain is an answer. Here's why. It's not that Tyreek Stevenson isn't talented. He's incredible, Stevenson. Remember the Dan Lanning quote last spring, holy moly, we got ourselves a ball player. And then we didn't see a lot of Tyreek on the field. Why didn't we see a lot of Tyreek on the field? Because he wasn't assignment sound. Now, you might say, well, then just pick up the book and learn it, kid. It's not that simple. You know, a lot of these kids are moving, and they're kids. When they first come to campus, they're kids. They're moving away from home for the first time. Their schedules are unbelievable. I mean, I was in the military, so I've got respect for this. I get it. You know, there's a wake-up call, there's 5:30 workouts, there's shower, you know, treatment if there's an injury, to class, back to the football building, back to practice. Now you're tired, team meeting, maybe on to the academic center that night. I mean, it is tough. So it takes a while to get acclimated to that schedule. Secondly, Georgia's defense is complex. Now, when Kirby first came, and Mel Tucker shared this with me when I interviewed him at the national championship game a couple years ago in the Clemson-Alabama game out there in Santa Clara, which is like in the middle of the neighborhood. It's the most bizarre place for a football stadium. Have you ever seen Full House? I guess it's Fuller House now, right? It's like you're in the middle of the Silicon Valley, and it's almost futuristic, like the condos around there, and then boom, there's a football stadium, Levi Stadium in the middle of it. Gosh, where was I going? Oh, Tyreek Stevenson. So Mel Tucker told me that, you know, when they first got there, they had good players. Obviously, Roquan Smith was amazing. But they kind of had, you kind of got what you got. And so you got to kind of coach to the players that you have. And Kirby really wasn't able to do a full install on what him and Mel wanted to do. And even year two, right? Because you got your first recruiting class in year three. Right now, and a little bit last year with Dan Lanning, but you're starting to really start to see what a Kirby Smart defense looks like, because all the players that have been recruited to play in this scheme, and they've been coached up now for 2, 3, 4 years to kind of speak the same language and understand what, you know, the left hand and the right hand. Early on, you got to be simple when you're a coach. It takes a while to build a culture. It takes a while to kind of get your scheme in place. But now Georgia's getting nasty on defense because they've recruited to the positions with the size and speed that Kirby wants, and the players have heard the same thing for 3 and 4 years that are going to be on the field. So that's why Georgia's defense this year, I really believe it'll be the best in the country. I don't know what the numbers will say. Somebody may allow less yardage, whatever. They may rank 2 in this and 5 in this and 3 in this and 7 in that. But I can tell you they're going to be the best defense in the country. There's no doubt in that. So back to Tyreek. So where does he fit in? Well, think about it. You know, he's a first-year guy. He's playing behind J.R. Reed, a third-year starter. He's playing behind Richie LeCounte, a third-year starter. So, and you really don't want to take those guys off the field if you're Georgia, because their quarterback in the back end. You know, Georgia didn't give up a play over 40 yards. This is an amazing statistic. Georgia did not give up a play over 40 yards the second half of the regular season. Isn't that amazing? In those 6 games, they didn't give up a play longer than 40 yards. And it was largely because of J.R. Reed and Richard LeCounte, because they were assignment sound. You didn't see the breakdown. Like, remember when Cager had the 52-yard touchdown against Florida? Somebody busted his sign and went, oh, my God, somebody blew a play. Georgia doesn't blow plays, okay? Don't bring up 2nd and 26. First year, wouldn't happen now. Would not happen now, right? Think about that, okay? What other questions you got for me? I told myself I would go until 8 o'clock. Tyreek is what's he going to be? He's going to be a sophomore. He's a fabulous. He could play the star. He could play, I think maybe could he play where Lewis Cine is at? I thought Lewis Cine had a pretty good Sugar Bowl in place of J.R. Reed. We had a discussion on Dog Nation's Cover 4, how big is Cine. I was in the locker room after the Sugar Bowl. He didn't look that big to me, and he was listed like 188. Centel says he's 210. I don't know. I think he's closer to 190. Jason wanted to know about the offensive line. Whew, boy, you know, that's a tough one, man. You know, who's the left tackle? Who's the right tackle? It was in my story today, again, on Dog Nation, if you want to read a little bit more about it. I like Jamari Salyer a lot. You know, I like that he kept his weight under control. He's 309. We know that Matt Luke wants a more athletic offensive line, because they're going to be playing in space more, right? A lot of times people say, how come Georgia doesn't run the ball outside? because those really big guys don't move real well. That was the downside of having like 335 pounders. They weren't real good at pulling or blocking in space. So that's why you're going to see a move towards a more athletic line. Seeing Jamari at 309, he could be unbelievable. Justin Schaefer, the left guard, remember he had the neck brace. He filled in when Solomon McKinley got injured against Notre Dame. What was that, third or fourth game of the season? I like him there. And Kirby gave him a shout out in winter workouts. And when the head coach is calling out your number and your name, that means you're doing a pretty good job. Trey's going to be back at center. Right guard is a question mark for me. Some people got kind of ticked off because I said Ben Cleveland's a question mark there. But look, he didn't make the grade. He's had injury problems the last couple years, and he's a big, stiff guy. Now has Ben dropped weight? Could he drop weight and be more athletic? I mean, Ben Cleveland to me is one of the big mysteries. Is he first round ceiling or undrafted? Is he a starter in all SEC or not even a starter? I mean, I don't know what Ben Cleveland's going to do. I don't know. When a guy doesn't, now this was his dad that told 24/7 this, didn't make the grade for the Sugar Bowl. I mean, that was disappointing, man. I mean, come on, you're a fourth-year junior. Your teammates need you. You let the team down. I mean, that is what it is. I mean, for a guy, Ben is a young man. And I've interviewed Ben enough where he would probably go, yeah, I was disappointing. He'll take accountability. I have no doubt, because that's the kind of guy Ben Cleveland is. I don't throw the baby out with the bathwater and say he's a horrible. No, he's got the upside to be a great player. But I don't know where he's at. He's a fifth-year senior. A lot of his buddies moved on. Sometimes it can be tough for a guy when his guys aren't there anymore. So we'll see what happens with Ben Cleveland. Look at this, 7:59. What do we got, folks? What do you have for me? What is left on Friday Night Mike? You can see the lighting. It's getting a little bit darker. Like I said, lighting by God tonight. There's no lights set up. Been a fun show. Always enjoy interacting with you guys. Always enjoy the show. It's always fun to get feedback, see the fun jokes. You guys always keep it light. It's a different format, and we went to this format with video largely because, there wasn't as much going on, and so maybe we weren't writing as many stories. I was still doing a lot, but it's like, I told the boss, BJ, I said, hey, man, let me do a couple more videos, and people like it, and we all enjoy it. We all talk, and we have fun, and different people make jokes and things like that. The people that are on my Facebook page got to be, what is this? You used to cover Tennessee. You didn't do this with Tennessee. Who are these Georgia people? Look at how nice the Tennessee people have been, though. You haven't seen anybody from Tennessee make any remarks about Georgia. You haven't seen any Rocky Top trash talk. You haven't seen any of my old Alabama or Auburn fans come after you. I don't even know if the Idaho fans, half of them probably don't have internet right now. Sorry, Idaho. It was kind of remote. What do we got? What do we want to know? Let's close on a strong note. One more rant, one more thought, one more epiphany. Somebody set me off. Somebody light the fuse. Somebody ask the question of questions to finish on Friday Night Mike. Because I can't go away quietly. There's got to be like that mic drop moment, right? Wes, I appreciate the compliment. I like this Friday night format too. I think we're going to keep doing it. Jacob O'Neill, another good buddy. See what I mean? You make friends when you do this stuff. Joel Moody with the Brinson comment. Gabriel, look, we're not going to talk about it. The defense is so good. I'm not going to bore you with how great they are. We got to come up with something a little bit more here. What did we talk about this week that was controversial? Well, good to see Greg Hampton. There's one of my old Knoxville buddies. Greg, a newspaper guy, sports type. Lewis Senior, somebody else. Zeus over under 1,200 yards. Under. I've got my concerns. We'll end with this. I've got my concerns about the running back position. George has been spoiled rotten. When you had Nick Chubb and Sony Michel and DeAndre Swift, I mean, those were 3 NFL starting running backs in the same backfield. And then they moved on. Swift has been amazing. I thought Holyfield ran hard, but remember I said I didn't think he'd be drafted because of the top-end speed, and then he ran a 4.83 and didn't get drafted. I hated to be right about that. But he's such a hard worker that he made the team anyway, and that says everything about Holyfield, and I'm so glad to see him on a roster. But this year's running back crew, I have questions about. Zamir's got to stay healthy, and he's got to show he's got to show the wiggle, man. If he just runs north and south, I just don't know if you get through an SEC season playing that style of ball. Cook has got to show me that he can, take care of business between the tackles, and he's got to show me that he's going to be a good practice player. Not show me that, but show Del McGee that. He's got to be a great practice player. And I think he can do amazing things and go on to the NFL as a top 2 or 3 round pick. I know where I'm going to end. When we talk about great running backs, I said this the other day to the Athens Touchdown Club. I spoke to them yesterday. We had about an hour presentation similar to this. And when I came to Georgia, this is the 10,000-foot mic coming in from the land, and this is my 3rd year covering the team. I keep looking for Herschel Walker stuff. I keep looking for a Herschel Walker statue in front of the stadium. There's one that's out of town. Look, man, Georgia's got to do more with Herschel Walker. There needs to be a Herschel Walker award. You've got a walking, talking football legend who still looks like he could bulldoze and go for 185 yards. Tremendous ambassador for the school. I had him at the football writers banquet this year. He was at my table. He was my guest because he was the freshman of the year legend award winner. So every year I do this award with Sean Alexander. It goes to the best freshman of the year. This year we started honoring a legend. And I told Sean, we've got to start with Herschel Walker because of what he did his freshman year right here in New Orleans. National championship game. All the Georgia fans know the story. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. It's storybook. Herschel Walker is the greatest college running back of all time. And I would tell you that whether I was covering Georgia, Tennessee, or Michigan State, where I covered Le'Veon Bell, or Alabama, where I covered Sean, or Tennessee, where there was Jamal Lewis and Kamara and Arian Foster. And Herschel Walker is the best. Bo was the most dynamic, but Bo didn't do it 3 straight years like Herschel did. You ring the bell, man, and Herschel Walker could be counted on. And what got me fired up about that this week, I'm going through my phone in the morning like everybody else. I read all the emails, some of it's spamming. Peyton Manning is getting a marker at the Rose Bowl. I said, what the hell? Peyton Manning never even played on the Rose Bowl. Well, actually, he did. Peyton Manning's first game was in the Rose Bowl Stadium against UCLA, so he's being honored. And I said, you know what? I've had enough of this. How does Peyton Manning get honored at the Rose Bowl and Herschel Walker doesn't even get honored at Sanford Stadium? There's something wrong with the picture here, man. I mean, look, Vince Dooley Field, the statue of Vince getting carried, awesome, beautiful. And when I talk to the Georgia people about it, when I talk to the Georgia powers that be, they say, well, Mike, it's an academic school, and we're just not real big on statues on it. Okay, but this is Herschel Walker, man. Herschel blank. You go to LSU, and you'll see a big statue of Shaquille O'Neal in front of the Pete Maravich Assembly Center. You go to Michigan State, and you see a picture of Irvin Magic Johnson in front of Breslin Arena. You go to Alabama, and you see statues of like 7 or 8 coaches. I mean, even Florida honors a giant alligator. I think there's a Steve Spurrier statue. But I go to Sanford Stadium, and I don't see the statue. I don't see it. So, folks, there's your challenge. Get on social media. Write to your congressman. Write to your favorite Georgia booster down the road. Share this show and say to your folks, watch the last 3 minutes. Mike Griffith is talking about honoring Herschel Walker. Is it going to be a statue, or better yet, is it going to be an award? The Herschel Walker Running Back Award. People say Doak Walker. Doak Walker's dead. Nobody cares about Doak Walker. I'm sorry, they do in Dallas. All respect to Doak Walker. But do you even know who won the Doak Walker Award? Picture this. The Herschel Walker Award, presented every year in Athens, Georgia. The best running back in the country comes to Athens, Georgia, to shake Herschel Walker's hand and accept the Herschel Walker Trophy, which looks something like the Heisman Trophy, only more impressive because Herschel was more impressive than John Heisman. So you got this awesome bronze trophy that weighs 100 pounds that Herschel could bench press with one hand because he can still fight MMA and like beat anybody. And the best running back in the but beyond that, there's a legend. So we're bringing in a legend every year. We're bringing in the best college run, but we're bringing in Emmitt Smith one year. We're bringing in Shauna. We're bringing in Reggie Bush. He's back associated with USC. We're bringing in a former great running back to be honored with the Herschel running back. You're our legend. And then it gets even better. All the Georgia running backs of all time come back. You know, all the great running backs from Georgia. And they have like their own little convention. And it's all the great Georgia running backs hanging out with Herschel on the golf course. Georgia fans are coming to Athens in April or May. They're paying $200 to play a round of golf with these guys and ride around on a golf court and ask Tim Worley what it was like, or ask Noshawn Marino, or what other great running back, because it's one big Georgia celebration. And when Georgia says RBU, everybody's buying, and everybody knows it, because the Herschel Walker Award is on display every year. It's not that hard to do. It's not that hard to do. You want a recruiting advantage? You want to show everybody that you're RBU? You want to show everybody how you respect your legends? You honor Herschel Walker. That's what you do, Georgia. That's what we do. We do our social distancing, right? We wear the masks in the store, and we honor Herschel Walker. And that's the mic drop. That was it. Thanks, guys. I knew you'd come up with something. That was awesome. You guys you threw that fastball right down the middle. This was like batting practice, man. That's why this show rocks. Appreciate you guys joining me. Have a great weekend. I'll be back on Monday night.